There's one shift you can make right now that will change everything about how people see you. Not with arrogance, not with demands, but with something so quiet, it's almost invisible. Most people spend their entire lives begging for respect they already deserve. But what if I told you that silence can speak louder than 1,000 words? Today, you're going to learn the one thing that will make people treat you differently forever. Because respect isn't something you chase, it's something you command without saying a word. Are you ready to discover who you really are? Then watch every second of this. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to share with you goes against everything you've been taught. Society tells you to be louder, to prove yourself constantly, to fight for every inch of recognition. But the truly powerful, they operate from a completely different frequency. Think about the most respected people you know, not the loudest, but the ones who command attention the moment they enter a room. What do they have that others don't? It's not charisma, it's not wealth, it's not even talent. It's an unshakable sense of self-worth that radiates from within. They've made a fundamental decision that most people never make. They've chosen to honor themselves first. And here's what's revolutionary about this: when you truly honor yourself, you don't need to announce it. People feel it. Your energy becomes your introduction. Your presence becomes your statement. And your silence becomes more powerful than anyone else's noise. The first principle of transformation is this: withdraw your energy from people and places that don't honor it. I know this sounds harsh. You've been conditioned to believe that being available, accommodating, and endlessly giving makes you valuable. But here's the truth nobody tells you: what's freely given is rarely valued. Every time you bend yourself into a pretzel for someone who shows up inconsistently, you're not being kind, you're training them to disrespect you. You're teaching them that your time is negotiable, your boundaries are flexible, and your worth is conditional. But watch what happens when you simply stop. No announcements, no explanations, no dramatic exits. You just quietly redirect your energy towards yourself. The people who took you for granted, they suddenly feel the absence. The calls you always answered, now met with intentional silence. The favors you did without question, now unavailable. And here's the beautiful part: you don't do this with anger or revenge. You do it with profound self-respect. You're not punishing anyone. You're simply choosing yourself. In a world obsessed with being heard, the person who masters silence becomes unstoppable. Because here's what happens when you speak less and observe more: you start seeing the truth behind the performance. You notice the micro expressions that reveal dishonesty. You catch the pattern of someone who only calls when they need something. You see how people's energy shifts when they think you're not paying attention. Most people are too busy trying to prove themselves to notice they're being played. They're so focused on being accepted that they miss all the red flags waving right in front of them. But when you step back, when you embrace the power of strategic silence, you become 3 steps ahead of everyone else. You're not reacting, you're assessing. You're not defending, you're deciding. You're not chasing, you're choosing. And people feel this shift. They sense that you're no longer someone they can manipulate with guilt, pressure, or false urgency. You've become unreadable, not cold, but calculated, not distant, but discerning. This is how you protect your peace. This is how you preserve your power, by watching everything and revealing nothing until you're ready. Here's the secret most motivational content won't tell you: the real transformation doesn't happen on social media. It doesn't happen in public declarations or dramatic lifestyle changes. It happens in the quiet moments when nobody's watching. It's when your alarm goes off and you choose discipline over comfort. It's the way you speak to yourself after failure. Do you tear yourself down or build yourself back up? It's keeping promises to yourself when no one else would know if you broke them. This is where self-respect is born, not in the applause of others, but in the integrity of your private actions. Because here's what happens: the world is simply a mirror. It reflects back the energy you carry. If you don't respect yourself behind closed doors, no amount of external validation will fill that void. You'll chase approval forever, and still feel empty. But when you start honoring yourself in private, when you keep your word to yourself, when you treat your time as sacred, when you invest in your growth, even when it's uncomfortable, something shifts in your entire being. You stop seeking permission. You stop apologizing for your standards. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable, because you've built a foundation of self-worth that no external circumstance can shake. Now, we arrive at the core principle. Setting your standard and protecting it like your life depends on it, because it does. Your standard is not about being better than others. It's about being aligned with your truth. It's the line you draw that says, "This is what I deserve, and I'm no longer available for anything less." And yes, this will make you uncomfortable. It will make you seem too much to people who are used to you being convenient. Some will call you cold. Others will say you've changed. Let them. Because here's what they're really saying: you're no longer easy to use, and that inconveniences me. The people meant for you will never be intimidated by your standards. They'll rise to meet them, or they were never your people to begin with. Both outcomes are blessings. When you set a standard and refuse to negotiate it, you do something powerful. You filter your entire life. The wrong people fall away naturally. The right opportunities align effortlessly. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. But here's the key: you must hold this line even when loneliness knocks. Even when you're tempted to settle. Even when the pressure to conform feels overwhelming. Stand firm. Because every time you uphold your standard, you reinforce your worth. And every time you compromise, you erode your power. One of the most underrated forms of power is the ability to walk away without drama. No explanations, no final arguments, no burning bridges, just a quiet, dignified exit. Most people stay in toxic situations for too long because they fear the silence that comes after goodbye. They fear judgment. They fear regret. They fear the unknown. But here's what they don't realize: the moment you find the courage to leave peacefully, you reclaim something precious: your inner peace. You don't need to prove why you're leaving. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't need anyone's permission to protect your energy. You simply make a decision and honor it in silence. And this silence, it's not weakness. It's wisdom. It's the recognition that not every battle needs fighting. Not every disrespect needs addressing. And not every departure requires a performance. When you walk away without drama, you give people something more powerful than words: the echo of your absence. And often, that echo teaches them more than any argument ever could. Everything in life is energy, and the energy you carry determines the reality you experience. This isn't philosophy, it's physics. When you operate from a place of desperation, people sense it. When you chase validation, people feel it. When you tolerate disrespect, people exploit it. Your energy broadcasts your self-worth before you ever speak a word. But watch what happens when you shift your internal frequency. When you move from seeking approval to embodying self-assurance. When you stop explaining and start expecting. When you withdraw your energy from what drains you and invest it in what elevates you. Suddenly, the same people who ignored you start paying attention. Opportunities you never chased begin finding you. Relationships that align with your truth naturally appear. Not because you became someone new, but because you finally remembered who you've always been. This is the energy shift. It's not about pretending or performing. It's about alignment. It's about becoming so rooted in your worth that external validation becomes optional, not essential. And when you reach this state, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to attract anything, but because you've stopped chasing everything. People are drawn to those who are complete within themselves. Your energy becomes your invitation, and only those who resonate with your frequency can answer it. Here's a question that will change your life. What do you see when you look in the mirror and nobody else is around? Not the physical reflection, but the truth of who you are. Are you proud of the person staring back at you? Do you respect the choices you've made? Do you honor the promises you've kept to yourself? Because this private conversation between you and your reflection determines everything. The world only amplifies what you already believe about yourself. If you stand in front of that mirror and see someone worthy, capable, and deserving of respect, that's the energy you'll carry into every room. But if you see someone who constantly compromises, who settles, who apologizes for existing, that becomes your reality. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows you the unfiltered truth. And the work of transformation isn't about convincing others of your worth. It's about convincing yourself first. Start treating yourself like someone you deeply respect. Keep your word to yourself. Honor your boundaries even when no one's watching. Show up for yourself with the same energy you'd show up for someone you love. Because when you finally become your own best friend, your own protector, your own champion, everything else falls into place. The respect you've been chasing, it was always within you, waiting for you to claim it. There's a certain authority that doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't require titles, accolades, or public validation. It simply exists, rooted so deeply that external storms can't shake it. This is silent authority, and it's built through years of small decisions, choosing integrity over convenience, discipline over instant gratification, growth over comfort. People with silent authority don't need to dominate conversations. They don't need to prove their intelligence or broadcast their achievements. Their presence speaks volumes. They walk into rooms and the energy shifts not because they're loud, but because they're grounded. Not because they demand attention, but because they command respect through their very being. And here's what makes this powerful. Silent authority can't be faked. It's not a technique or strategy. It's the natural result of living in alignment with your deepest values. It's what happens when your private actions match your public persona. When your yes means yes, and your no means no. When you've stopped performing and started embodying. This is the ultimate goal, not to be seen as powerful, but to be powerful. Not to appear confident, but to be so rooted in your truth that confidence becomes your default state. And when you reach this place, you realize something profound. You never needed anyone's permission to be who you are. You only needed your own. Right now, this very moment, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to who you've always been, seeking approval, tolerating disrespect, shrinking to fit into spaces you've outgrown. The other path, it leads to freedom, to self-respect, to a life where your energy is sacred and your peace is protected. But here's the thing about this choice. You can't walk both paths. You can't honor yourself while constantly betraying your boundaries. You can't demand respect while accepting crumbs. You can't transform while clinging to what's comfortable. You must choose. And that choice will be tested repeatedly. Every time someone tries to pull you back into old patterns. Every time loneliness whispers that maybe you're asking for too much. Every time fear suggests that maybe you should settle. In those moments, remember this: the discomfort of growth is temporary, but the pain of staying small is permanent. Yes, setting boundaries will cost you relationships. Yes, honoring yourself will make you seem different. Yes, walking away from what no longer serves you will feel scary. But staying stuck, tolerating disrespect, and betraying yourself to maintain connections that drain you, that cost you everything: your peace, your power, your potential. So which path will you choose? The familiar path of seeking validation, or the courageous path of honoring yourself? The choice has always been yours. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you a fantasy. Real change, the kind that rewires your entire existence, happens gradually, through consistent small decisions. In the beginning, it feels uncomfortable. You'll second-guess yourself. You'll wonder if you're being too harsh, too rigid, too different from who you've always been. People will notice the shift, and they won't all celebrate it. Some will try to pull you back. Others will criticize your evolution. The ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries will be especially resistant. But if you stay committed, something remarkable happens around the 90-day mark. Your new standards start feeling natural. Your boundaries become automatic. Your self-respect becomes unshakable. By 6 months, you won't recognize your old life. The people who drained you will be distant memories. The situations you tolerated will feel incomprehensible. The version of you who settled will feel like a stranger. And here's the beautiful part: you won't want to go back. Because once you've tasted the freedom of self-respect, the sweetness of protected peace, the power of authentic alignment, anything less becomes unacceptable. This is the timeline of transformation. It requires patience. It demands consistency. But the reward? A life where you're no longer performing for approval, where you're no longer shrinking for acceptance, where you're finally, fully, authentically yourself. And that version of you? Unstoppable. Here's something most people don't realize about personal transformation. It never stays personal. When you change, everything around you changes. Your evolution creates a ripple effect. First, it touches your immediate relationships. The people closest to you will either rise to meet your new standard or naturally fade away. Your circle becomes smaller but infinitely more valuable. Then the ripples spread to your career. When you stop accepting less than you deserve personally, you stop accepting it professionally. You negotiate better. You advocate for yourself. You pursue opportunities aligned with your worth. The ripples continue to your health, your habits, your daily choices. When you respect yourself deeply, you can't keep treating your body poorly or your time carelessly. Everything must align. And finally, the ripples reach people you've never met. Because when you show up in the world with authentic self-respect, you give others permission to do the same. You become a living example that it's possible to honor yourself without apology. This is the power you hold, not just to transform your own life, but to inspire transformation in others simply by being committed to your own evolution. So understand that your journey isn't just about you. Every boundary you set teaches someone else that boundaries are necessary. Every time you walk away from disrespect, you show someone else it's possible. Every moment you choose yourself, you light a path for others to follow. Your transformation is your contribution. Don't underestimate its power. Transformation isn't a destination you reach, it's a practice you commit to daily. And this practice doesn't require hours. It requires presence. Start your morning with 3 simple questions. Who am I today? What do I stand for? What will I no longer tolerate? These questions root you in your truth before the world has a chance to pull you in different directions. They remind you of your standard before anyone tests it. Throughout your day, practice the pause. Before reacting to someone's energy, pause. Before saying yes to something that doesn't align, pause. Before compromising your boundary, pause. In that pause lives your power. It's the space between stimulus and response where you remember who you are and what you deserve. End your day with reflection. Did you honor yourself today? Where did you stand firm? Where did you slip? No judgment, just awareness. Because awareness is the foundation of all change. And here's what makes this practice powerful. Consistency compounds. Each day you honor yourself, you reinforce the neural pathways of self-respect. Each boundary you maintain, you strengthen your resolve. Each time you choose alignment, you make the next choice easier. This is how transformation becomes permanent. Not through dramatic gestures, but through daily dedication to the person you're becoming. Small decisions, repeated consistently, create massive results. This is the formula. Now apply it. There comes a moment in every transformation journey when you realize something profound. You're free. Free from the need to explain yourself. Free from the compulsion to prove your worth. Free from the exhausting performance of being whoever others need you to be. This freedom doesn't come from escaping your life. It comes from finally inhabiting it fully as yourself, without apology, without compromise. You wake up one morning and realize you haven't checked for validation in weeks. You haven't dimmed your light to make anyone comfortable. You haven't betrayed yourself to maintain peace. And the most beautiful part, you don't miss it. You don't miss the drama, the people-pleasing, the constant negotiation of your worth. What you've gained, your peace, your power, your authenticity is so valuable that nothing can make you go back. This is liberation. Not the absence of challenges, but the presence of unshakable self-respect. Not the elimination of difficult people, but the wisdom to know you don't have to engage with them. You've built something in place in yourself that no external circumstance can touch. A fortress of self-worth, a foundation of integrity, a sanctuary of peace. And from this place, you move through the world differently. Not seeking, but selecting. Not chasing, but choosing. Not hoping, but knowing. This is what's possible when you commit fully to honoring yourself. This is the freedom waiting on the other side of your courage. We've covered a lot of ground together, but if you take nothing else from this message, remember this: you have always been enough. Always. The respect you're seeking isn't something you need to earn. It's something you need to claim. The worth you're trying to prove isn't in question. It never was. The only thing standing between you and the life you deserve is your willingness to honor the truth of who you are, to set the standard, to protect your energy, to walk away from what diminishes you and toward what elevates you. This isn't easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because it requires you to disappoint people, to let go of connections that feel comfortable but aren't healthy, to stand alone until you find your true tribe. But I promise you this. The temporary discomfort of setting boundaries is nothing compared to the permanent pain of living beneath your potential. Every moment you spend tolerating disrespect is a moment stolen from your purpose. Every day you shrink to fit into spaces you've outgrown is a day you delay your destiny. So make the decision right now, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel ready. Now, decide that your energy is sacred, that your peace is protected, that your worth is non-negotiable, and then live like you mean it. Will everyone understand? No. Will everyone celebrate your evolution? Absolutely not. Will there be moments of doubt and loneliness? Yes. But will you finally be free? Will you finally be at peace? Will you finally be living in alignment with your truth? Yes, yes, yes. And that is worth everything. The world is waiting for the real you, not the version that performs, not the version that shrinks, but the version that stands fully in their power, apologetically authentic, completely aligned. That version of you changes everything, for yourself, for the people you touch, for the legacy you leave. So step into it, claim it, embody it, starting right now, because you've spent enough time seeking validation from a world that was waiting for you to validate yourself. You've spent enough energy trying to prove what was never in question. You've spent enough years being everything to everyone except yourself. It's time to honor yourself, time to set the standard, time to walk in the power that's always been yours. Do this, and I promise you, people will never see you the same way again. Not because you've changed who you are, but because you've finally become it. Now go. Your transformed life is waiting, and it starts with a single decision, to finally, fully, unapologetically respect yourself. The rest will follow. Remember, transformation is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you've always been beneath the layers of people, pleasing, and self-doubt. Your power was never lost. It was just waiting for you to claim it. The question is, will you?